Tired, but very good. How about you? I've never been. Hi, everyone. Yeah, sorry. So it's an interesting lineup. So townies, do you mind chilling, because we are live and direct on the internet and in real life. So I'm gonna call to order the regular village board meeting. And everyone's welcome to join us for the pledge and whatnot. So let's stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The village of New Paltz humbly acknowledges we are on the traditional lands of the Munsee, Esopus, and Lenape people. The Indian Removal Act of 1830 forced people to relocate to inhospitable territory far from the bountiful valley and mountains we inhabit today. The village further acknowledges that much of the physical structure of our village and town was built by enslaved Africans who labored as the property of their owners until 1827 on this very land. We acknowledge and honor the contributions, resilience, and accomplishments of the BIPOC community, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, who have overcome historic injustice to inform our past and inspire our future. The village of New Paltz encourages everyone to learn more about the contributions and sacrifices made by the Indigenous people and enslaved Africans by visiting these sites. If you have resources that you should be believed to be included, here, please contact us. Thank you.
Thanks, Stevie. So just for anyone following along, we're just in the regular village agenda, and we'll switch gears shortly. So first I move to pass the village consent agenda.
So moved.
Second, so all in favor? Aye. And, I move to approve the business agenda. Let me just double check. There were no amendments. We got everything in. Right? Yes. So I move the village business agenda as it is.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So the game plan for the night, first. Can someone please help? Thank you. Good catch. So our game plan for the night, the village meeting is in place. We're going to tackle our second agenda item, which is the annexation item. Then we'll pause the village meeting and call a joint meeting for the purpose of voting on the resolution to move consolidation to public referendum. And then that'll end and we'll get back to just our regular village business. So I have QR codes and a few hard copies of the village agenda on the table, along with all the most updated one pagers about consolidation, for anyone who's interested. So, announcements, did anyone have anything pressing? Just a reminder, the family of New Paltz 50th anniversary party is a week from tomorrow. And so keep an eye out on socials because I'll be reposting all that information, and see you there. So public comment, if people wanted to make public comment, I figure it's good to go in order. Just wanted to make a note that it's our regular village public comment. So if you're making comment, it's not necessarily about, any sort of public hearings or anything, because it's not that. So we're back to 3 minutes or shorter. So feel free to come on up, just make sure this is heard. Hearing none, let's go. So first business agenda is our New Paltz Apartments annexation resolution. So I'm just going to move to pass the resolution of the Village Board of Trustees adopting local law number 1 of 2026, annexing territory from the town of New Paltz to the Village of New Paltz pursuant to General Municipal Law, Section 714.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Cool. So, cool, we just passed a lot together, guys. So, let's just hit pause on the village agenda, invite our town board colleagues to the table more metaphorically, because you're already here. And I'll just move to open our joint village and town meeting.
So just a question, do we need to amend the agenda to open the joint meeting?
I don't think so.
Emily, hi. Do we need to amend the agenda to open the joint meeting? Because all of this is village business.
I don't know how you normally do it.
I mean, the meeting was noticed, so
Yeah.
that's the most important thing.
Well, it was noticed yesterday at 1, but
So the vote was noticed in the whole package of consolidation notices. And so it always has been declared that would be taking place during the regular village board meeting time. And so to just be extra careful, that's why I'm being very deliberate in explaining each step. So it's all there. But I don't think anything needs to be edited because those notices were done. And it's not the agendas that matter, it's the notice. So that's why it's all the materials for this, or at least the ones that I had were under the consolidation agenda item. But, so I feel comfortable keeping it like this.
So you made a motion, right?
Yeah,
To open the joint meeting?
yes, to open the joint
That's
meeting.
fine.
Cool. Did anybody second it?
Second.
Cool. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Cool. So, yeah, it was just the one agenda item that we did notice as a part of the whole package, to basically vote on, 2 different resolutions, but they're pretty identical, to go on the draft joint consolidation agreement. So first, just wanted to kind of explain why we did the order of events, and get a little consensus. So the new village map is now included in that JCA draft, that is what we are, calling the final draft now. It's Exhibit A. That's the only new update since last week. So, is everyone cool with the final map being included? Anyone not cool? Say so. It's our straw poll. We're all cool with it. Thanks.
Alice, I'm just not clear what we're talking. Are we talking about the village resolution right now?
We're talking about the JCA, the Joint Consolidation Agreement draft. And so the final version of it has an Exhibit A, which is the new village map that we just approved 2 minutes ago.
And that's in both versions?
That is in, yeah, so, right, okay, I see where you're getting confused. So the two different resolutions, like that we're each gonna vote on by roll call separately in a moment, are followed by the exact same material.
So our version of the JCA is the same as yours?
Yes, they're identical, and that was a good question in case anyone else had that question out there, yeah. So we just made this new map. We voted on it, that law is ready to go to the Department of State, so that map is included in the draft, that's the only change since last time. No one seemed to have an issue with that. There's no other amendments to the JCA that, came up since last time we saw each other. But I figured, if anyone had like something they wanted to add at the table, now would be the time. Yeah, and then. Yeah, so we have our straw poll approval of the final JCA draft. So then next, each board will tackle our separate resolutions by roll call vote, one at a time. Village goes first because it's our house. Right? Yeah, okay. And then I know that I just want to say, I know there were some questions from people like that wanted to maybe explain their vote or something. You could always do that with any votes during discussion, after a second. So no different than usual. So, with that, I'm going to move to pass the Village of New Paltz resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Village of New Paltz approving the final joint consolidation agreement and calling for a referendum on and setting the date for the proposed consolidation of the Village of New Paltz and the Town of New Paltz pursuant to General Municipal Law 754 and 755.
Second.
Okay, discussion. So yeah, if any of you wanted to say anything, feel free. And then it's gonna be tough because we have gotten so used to talking together, village only for now, and then town guys, you'll have your chance. But if anyone did want to explain your vote, I did say you're welcome to do so now, or discuss
I'll
anything.
go for something here. So this is really for the record. For me, the decision to vote yes or no rests on whether consolidation is a viable alternative to continuing with two separate but overlapping governments. That is consolidation such a bad option that the residents of the village and the town outside the village should not have the opportunity to exercise their ability to directly control what happens in their community? The answer for me is no. I feel strongly that consolidation is a viable alternative and that residents should have the opportunity to vote for or against consolidation. My biggest concern with consolidation is making it feasible and attractive for the village employees to continue to work for New Paltz. It's hard not to be impressed with the quality of the individuals and the work they do. I don't want to minimize the difficulty in making a transition of this type, but largely because of what I know of the village employees, I believe they can bring their culture and capabilities with them and will find many other equally hardworking and capable town employees who are delighted to have them help guide and set the tone for their departments. I know that I would be. I think that within a couple of years, it will be clear that consolidation is a clear financial win for all residents who pay New Paltz taxes, directly or indirectly, including renters. This is urgently needed. The town supervisor, Tim Rogers, is clearly interested in efficient and transparent government, having proven to be fiscally responsible over the last 10 years as village mayor. Consolidation will provide many opportunities for town government to reduce redundancy and complexity and to plan strategically. There are few things more effective than having people who are excited and driven about a task in a position to take action. More than anything, I think that by combining our efforts and working together, New Paltz's government can be more effective and our community can be more unified.
Thank you. Anyone else had anything for, in discussion before we call the vote?
I'll just say
Yeah.
very briefly, not scripted necessarily, I think the JCA is very comprehensive and very compliant in its needs, according to the Department of State. I think that it lays out a really solid plan for what our municipalities could look like as one entity. I think it does either omit or has not yet resolved some details that I think are going to be really important. And I think one of those details is has to do with the employees in particular of our village, which I represent. I care deeply about the folks that work for the village across all the departments. And what I think is true is that there's an equal amount of risk in remaining a very small municipality that's dependent on some really key people, any number of which could leave any day. And I also believe that we might find that there's quite a bit of opportunity for employees that remain with the village or the town in a consolidated entity. I'd be excited to make available opportunities for, lateral training and movement, for growth and promotion. It is generally true that if you work in a smaller entity that becomes a slightly larger entity, because let's keep in mind, our town even combined, still a pretty small business, that there could be quite a few opportunities to pursue that I would like to make sure are highlighted just as much as some of the concerns that the employees and those that care about them might have. I think that I trust our leadership. Alex, thanks for all the work you've done in this process so far, and I think that your dedication and heart could lead us toward a successful consolidation. And Tim, I care deeply about your leadership, and I trust decisions you make and why you make them. And I think I would ask this town board to steward the process effectively. And I think one of the things the public could do is really consider how you embrace and appreciate the elected officials that do this work. Because whether we're one or two governments, if folks aren't willing to serve because of the experience of serving, potentially being, in many cases, challenging, I'll say, that I think that without these servants, we can't succeed. So, I believe there are many opportunities for improvement, and I think those are more likely to be possible for us in a consolidated entity. And I do believe that at the very least, the public should have an opportunity to vote on this decision.
Cool. Anyone else? No, and with no pressure, just want to make sure there's space. I had a few things to say quickly before calling the vote. Just, the tone set at the top, so I felt it's very important to clear a few things up, as relates especially to our small but mighty workforce. I keep hearing people say that our staff are misinformed, and they're not, they're nervous, and that's legitimate, and there's a big difference there. Yes, contract negotiations happen all the time, the JCA doesn't change that. Contracts will be intact until they run out or are renegotiated, but the vibes will be different, and there's no reason for us to, diminish that very legitimate and very real concern. So just wanted to put that out there. A lot of our colleagues here, the village staff, are facing this moment where much of what they've built over many years of service being changed by politicians and the electorate. And so I just want to make sure we give space to acknowledge that that is real and it's not misinformation. It's just legitimate concern for one's livelihood and legacy. I want to also address, there's a lot of letters and posts and stuff and comments putting a lot of emphasis on the CETC and people on one side being like worried that it's not a permanent thing, and on the other side that, not going this route with consolidation would be leaving money on the table. So if we're going to put emphasis on the CETC, I don't see it as a chance, money on the table or not. I think it was touched on last week really well when Tim actually said that, yes, he felt this was a good idea with or without that money. So just wanted to highlight that and tell folks to kind of go back to that meeting for a bit more on that. If we want to talk about money on the table, I can save that for next meeting with my code enforcement rabbit hole I've been going down,
Right.
yeah, we'll save that for another time, because I think I found about the equivalent of money that we've left on the table. And then the last point I wanted to make is a lot of people, I joked before we started the meeting that I started answering the phone upstairs by saying 311. So just wanted to thank everyone who's weighed in on this process, this year and last. And I hope you'll keep weighing in on every single thing that we do. I used to really just love this idea of consolidating, specifically to make 10 protections more streamlined. And it's been really cool getting the opportunity to really be a part of the working group and to really dig into this and realize, like I said last time, there are separate issues. And this is one of those things that just isn't going to be addressed by the JCA. Instead, it's addressed by the work that's done before and after and regardless, right? So just wanted to kind of say that while watching the Postal Service kind of fall apart from consolidation, I'm actually having a kind of terrified moment myself. So just wanted to kind of be transparent there that, in going through all this, I've been trying to not share my own feelings because I believe in all of our colleagues and I believe in our community, but I don't think I believe in consolidation. But I think the work that we've done on the JCA is solid. And I think it doesn't exist in a vacuum. And the work that has been done by generations before us should also be considered by community members in making their decisions. I think that's the way to be most informed. And I think it's time for this community to get a chance to weigh in for real on this old debate. I think it's been unhealthy coming up every few years. It kind of creates this pause button and it makes it so things fall through the cracks, and really good projects that could really make the difference, life and death difference to many members of the community kind of go on the back burner every single time this comes up. And I want to put it to an end. So a lot of people have been saying, trust your gut, follow your heart. And so my heart says to let the people vote on this. So I'll be voting aye tonight and then personally no on November 3rd. So with that, I guess I'll call our roll call. So Stevie Sesta,
I vote no.
Alan Ross,
Aye.
Rich Soto,
Aye.
Jasmine Towers.
No.
Alex Wojcik, yes. Okay, so motion carries, and I turn the meeting over to the town to handle your same as resolution.
We have a resolution here that's identical to the village's resolution that they just voted on. The only difference is an important difference that speaks to the qualified electors. It was actually Emily's colleague, one of the attorneys who's been helping with this, who identified the difference in that a couple of years ago, there was a consolidation vote that failed in the town of Falling, and the argument centered around if you're in a village, do you have two votes because you're a village resident and you're also a town resident? And the Supreme Court at the time determined that no, in a vote that's involving consolidation, you get one vote as town outside the village and one vote as a village resident. So for our resolution, we're only speaking to providing the electors in the town outside the village with the opportunity to vote. So I move the resolution.
Second,
Any further discussion?
I have some comments. First of all, I didn't get our resolution until 5 minutes ago. Our attorney did not send it to the whole town board, so I have not really had a chance to read it. I just feel that that's short notice. but I will assume that we have the full authority to vote on it, even though it did not appear on our town website. The public hearing process under Article 17A exists precisely so that the board can test the proposed agreement against public feedback. The feedback we received indicates that this version of the JCA does not reflect community buy-in. Thanks to Village Hall staff, we can all see the written public comments we have received on their consolidation page. And I hope they will soon be available on the town's consolidation documents and information page. In rereading the comments, the public has provided specific examples of errors, omissions, and claims that remain unanswered in this resolution. We have not received a single request to vote yes from our fire department, town or village employees, volunteer boards, or union members. In addition to the verbal and written objections to the JCA I have previously submitted, the potential 2 to 14% reduction in property taxes creates a huge windfall for the LLCs that own and operate so much of the rental properties in our community. It is unlikely that these savings will be passed on to their tenants. I recognize and appreciate the hard work and many hours my colleagues and the steering committee have spent reviewing the JCA. It needs improvement. There are 64 workdays until November 3rd. I don't believe that is enough time to create a more perfect document. I am voting no.
Any other comments from the town board? We'll do a roll call. I'm voting yes.
Yes, aye. No.
Yes.
That's. Okay, so with that, I'm gonna move to adjourn the joint portion of the meeting and resume the village board agenda. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moving through our agenda, if folks can just please be mindful of the sound, it's hard to work when there's a lot going on. For park updates, I don't have any further updates on the playground shade project. I just haven't had time, but I would like to keep this on the agenda, until we get some next steps in writing. And I don't know if I mentioned last time that I, found some really cool old maps actually from Michael Taylor's era of the board, and have been able to chat with some former board members about old ideas for the park, that I'd like to start putting into writing for us to start considering. But did any of you want to deal with the pickleball court rules request just yet?
What do you mean deal with?
Consider and come up with a solution. Because I don't really know what to do with it.
Anybody submit what other courts do?
So I started looking into that, but not enough.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cause I saw the whole thing and I saw the discrepancies and the issues that they were having. I'm
right.
assuming other folks and other courts have figured this out by now.
Yeah.
There's gotta be some etiquette to pickleball courts.
I would think the first come, first serve thing makes sense, you know,
Yeah.
like almost like a
They had set up
wax
an app.
board or something, you know?
They set up I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over your own. They set up an app though to like kind of circumvent that. And I don't think that that's the point that that's not.
No, the app should be like, that's
Yeah,
like what?
yeah, and they had like 15 people or
It sounds like
something.
you asking for someone to kind of run point on maybe putting together a group of pickleball players and resolve this together. I'm serious.
Yeah,
Being
I
asked.
think that.
We don't want to
would
do
be-
it here.
Yeah, like, that's what I'm thinking is like, I don't wanna, I don't wanna like ask, like, if anyone feels passionate about this, if you wanted to run point on that, that'd be awesome.
I
And
will
then-
say this, I have no passion whatsoever for football. I've never played the game in my life. But if we're looking for someone to raise their hand, knowing that my two colleagues have been appointed to something new today, I would be willing to see the material that's been shared so far. If there's a particular number of people that have wanted to weigh in on this, host one meeting at Village Hall.
Okay.
And come out the other end with probably a heavily, AI written potentially set of pickleball rules that would represent everybody's interests. And again, that would be the limit of it, is
Yeah.
to speak to some folks, look at some material, synthesize something and present it and take whatever, pardon the expression, bullets might come from doing some part of it wrong.
Okay,
And yes,
I
I'm
think that would
likely
be
to
awesome.
use technology to help me write it.
hey, that's A-okay. Okay, I accept that help. Thank you so much.
So you can email me, like, these are the folks that care,
Yeah,
and, I will.
and I can help curate the space and all that
Is
jazz.
there a
and
budget for coffee and like munchkins or
I
something?
can come up with something. Yeah,
Apparently, you know, this is a concern for people, not just residents, but.
Yeah,
I'm very interested in recreation and
Yeah.
activity in our town, so that's the reason I'll do it.
cool. And I appreciate that. So a reason why it's been kind of like a wacky thing, the app situation. So there's like the spirit of the park, you know, why it was donated to the community, you know, is for all community use. And so that's why when people hold events there, they don't charge for entry and whatnot. That tends to have been the rule that we followed. And I'm not saying the pickleballers are like doing that, but this app thing just has thrown a totally different wrench into things. And it makes me think once we build a skate park, this is gonna come up again. So let's, yeah, thank you. I will email you some folks and get you some coffee and munchkins, and we'll be able to take it from there. And then I have to just text back some, parents about the playground shade, because I want to make sure what we do is really like led by the folks who are sitting there thinking, this is what I want, you know? So I'll keep working with them on that and we'll circle back. Thank you.
thank you.
No problem.
Yeah. Water updates. So I wanted to share, there were some instances of groundwater that were like widely circulated on social media that actually had to do with the property itself. And which is why we weren't able to put out notices because we didn't know it, you know? So not gonna put any, you know, pressure, because this actually turns out to happen more often than not. According to our public works folks, they're like, this is not like an out of the norm thing. So sometimes maintenance will happen and whatnot. So if there's any, people who live in complexes, be it condos or apartments, we have extra things to think about. So if you're having brown water, call Village Hall and you can find out if there's something on our end. And if we do an investigation, find we don't know like what's going on, call your, you know, landlord or HOA contact, talk to your neighbors and all of that and help us kind of get to the bottom of it sooner. Because it seems to have been the case a couple times over. And then another instance that repetitively caused, you know, people calling and coming by and posting pictures of brown water that we, again, like weren't able to share out a notice. This is what's happening, just run your taps, blah, blah, blah. It's not that we were not trying to be communicative. It was just that we were taken by surprise. Contractors were tapping into fire hydrants, which caused changes in pressure, thus the brown water. And you're not supposed to do that. In fact, there's laws against just tapping into fire hydrants. And even if it's a situation where you have that permission, please make sure you run your whole plan by our team, so we can make sure that doesn't happen again. Otherwise, we're going to keep just water as a standing agenda item because there is a lot to deal with it as a general topic. So I'll have a little something to say, I think, every single meeting. One thing that I'm really hyper focused on, and I'm so excited to have the time to do it now, is getting our own staff the training hours that they need to operate the plant. There is just some changeovers and like operating companies over the years, that made it so our DPW staff like did all the steps, they have the certification, but they have to get the hours on our actual plant to be able to actually operate it. And when you have folks operate in-house, it really makes a difference because you know what's going on in your own house, right? So that's one thing that I'm trying to figure out and more next time. But yeah, if you don't see a notice, it means we don't know what's going on yet, so let us know.
Mhm.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so with the Downtown Historic Preservation District, we will keep this also as a standing agenda item until we get it across the finish line so that we do not drop any balls. But at the last, Historic Preservation Commission meeting, they passed an updated resolution calling for the creation of a new Downtown Historic Preservation District. So, now I've been working with our attorneys to draft the local law and public hearing notice. And I think we should be ready at our next meeting to have something to move on.
Great.
Yeah. Really, really excited about that. So next we have, our RFQ process for a CFA, the 2026 EDBG project that the village is applying for. So we have these scorecards. So basically, we got a few different responses we got three different responses, to our RFQ, which is request for quotes. One from Bernier and Larios, one from GPI, which is Greenman Peterson Incorporated, and another from H2M Architects and Engineers. And so, we have the digital versions, obviously, and then I have the hard copies here if we need them. And so what, I'm hoping for us to do tonight is to go through the scoring sheets. And then at the next meeting, we'll memorialize, a decision. And so, it seems like we only actually need one copy of the scoring sheets. So we can kind of just go through it together. And if anyone feels like we need more time, say so, because I do understand the beginning of the meeting tonight was pretty heavy. And I don't know about you guys, that was a whole night.
I haven't had really time to look over those, honestly. So I'm better on my plate.
Are these the ones that were emailed to us?
Yeah, so they were emailed, and then, I was an English major, so I like kind of love having hard copies of things.
Yeah.
If you guys like having hard copies of things, let me know and I can make sure we prepare them, or I can pass them along. I love getting the actual materials that are turned in with RFQs. So, I was a clerk before. So let me know in advance and I can always make sure we have those. But I think it would be okay if we did hold until the next meeting, and if it winds up being like something that we have to really jump on, we can call an emergency meeting. But if everyone can commit to going through, each of those proposals, so it's cool because it's kind of like a rubric back in like writing class 101, where, and it's a useful exercise, I think, for all of us at the table. Because we'll be wanting to draft like a request for proposals for the skate park, for example, right? So when you go through the scoring sheet for a different project that, a pro like Mark Flower had done, or Ariana, or any of our other people who do these grant preparations, when they've done that, and then we could do the scoring part, I don't know, I find it to be really helpful. So please take some time. And, I have extra copies of the scoring sheets here, so, feel free to just, if you want to take them home and kind of work through that, and just like, let's be prepared for next meeting to kind of go through. Cool.
I should have thought more carefully, but I didn't, understand the assignment to be prepared for it, but I will do it this week.
Awesome. And I was like totally, like I wanted to do more helping everyone prepare because this is the first time this has come up for us, and it totally just kept not coming up. So yeah. So I move to approve and send the notice of award letter to TAM Enterprises Incorporated for the bid in the amount of $656,000 for the replacement of Stop 32 pump station.
Second.
All, discussion, all in favor? Oh,
This is the station that was to enable the developments in the NDR. So is this on the 32 North or North Chestnut? Is that what we're referring to here?
yeah, so
I'll go back and say, when I was on the planning board, a contingency on approving the new, apartment developments in the NBR on 32 North or North Chestnut Street was that each of the developers was to make a contribution to fund an upgrade or replacement to the station that would enable those buildings to exist. Because otherwise the capacity and the reliability of the existing station wasn't sufficient for that. And then leading the planning board here, I've never followed to confirm whether that was done, but I assume that our village team and engineers have done that. So I was just looking to close my own mental loop to know whether this is that one. And I can then find that out.
Yeah, no, you're right, that my answer to that is, that's also a mental loop for me to close too, with how that actually works. Because the thing is, we're the government entity, so, you know, I know we are the ones that have to do all this stuff, but I don't know actually how that agreement works, so
Yeah.
yeah, we'll circle back on that.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Because I also think it's very important that the estimates that will, the basis of those developer contributions proved accurate enough that they made the contribution they were supposed to make and not let the village carry the burden of this upgrade. So it would be too late to say yes or no to that, but I'd just like to know how that played out.
Yeah, I will make sure we have an update on how that played out for next time.
Thanks.
It's funny, I've started just taking my own notes in my, so all in favor? Aye, thank you. All right, I move to adopt the secret resolution regarding the bond resolution below, which is dated August 5th, 2026, authorizing the issuance of up to $700,000 aggregate principal amount serial bonds of the Village of New Paltz, County of Ulster, State of New York, to finance the cost of replacement of various sidewalks and curbs in and for the village. The second part of my motion is to declare the village a lead agency, and the third part of my motion is that to declare a type 2 action.
Second.
Discussion? Sidewalks has to be done, or else, yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
If you can't tell from my voice, the dollar amount's a little stressful there, but we're gonna make it work. Thanks to Nancy. Yeah, so now I move to approve bond resolution dated August 5th, 2026, authorizing the issuance of up to $700,000 aggregate principal amount serial bonds of the Village of New Paltz, County of Ulster, State of New York, to finance the cost of the replacement of various sidewalks and curbs in and for the village.
Second.
Discussion, sidewalks. All in favor? Aye. All right, I move to approve the Village Hall flood mitigation contract with ADRI.
Second.
Discussion, this is for the annex flood downstairs. All in favor? Aye. I move to authorize Planet Networks phone number transfer per the letter of authorization. Let me make sure that LOA made it into the actual agenda. And not just my notes. I think everyone might have gotten it emailed, but pretty straightforward and recommended from our staff. So I made that motion.
Second.
Okay, cool. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I move to approve tonight's resolution for bills and claims.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Reports. Anything fun going on with the planning board?
Actually, I don't know if you call it fun, but I don't know if you were there, but last night's meeting went until 10:30 plus. And besides the approval of a small deck at 26 Mill Rock, which happens to be my home, there's two really big projects underway right now. And the approval of a small deck is actually relevant. I mentioned it to say that it is an example of code revision that is overdue, that when complete, the planning board and the planning department wouldn't have to manage the process of a site plan approval and a public hearing for a small deck.
Yeah.
So I just want to put that in there, but there are two very big projects. It's the Woodland Pond proposed expansion. Besides just shouting out the planning board, for being there till 10:30, but also for holding the applicants accountable to some of the issues that have been raised regarding that project, not just the impact on its neighbors and the environment and the visual appearance, et cetera, but also the impact on emergency services. And it's a complicated issue that the planning board is looking to handle within its scope and purview, but it's going to come back to us in the town at some point as well, because ultimately the emergency services that support the residents of that potential expansion are paid for in various ways. And there's currently a mixture of a pilot and a tax basis from that building, from that project. The new project would be on the tax rolls because the pilot is only for the original construction. And then they would likely seek a revision of that pilot in 29 when the original one lapses. And it's not very clear cut as to like what we should be expecting of them to make sure that they're supporting the needs of the emergency services required to address their community. And it's sort of, I just think that the planning board is handling its piece of it. But I think we all need to understand the impact of a development like that and whether it is a disproportionate drain on resources, and if so, making sure that the town and village are ready to fund that, because that tax, the way that tax money gets spent to support various things includes how it supports emergency services. So just pointing out that I think there's a combination, you know, elected board's responsibility and planning board's responsibility to see to it that the impact of that project doesn't negatively affect the rest of the community. And then the other project that took them until 10:30 was the historic Huguenot Street project, which seems to be a scenario where historic Huguenot has continued to come back with some changes and concessions, but also with a proposal that, you know, within the law on their private property is something that they have much of the right to build in some ways, many ways, but also there's quite a bit of opposition within the community and what seems like on the board as well. So that was a pretty protracted conversation that included, members of the board voicing their perspective, primarily the attorney for historic Huguenot Street voicing theirs, and it's a pretty complex approval process.
Thank you. I was watching it while at the laundromat and just big ups to our PB volunteers. Yeah. Anything, it is a hard job. It's a hard job, but like, it's gratifying, you know, ask anyone, like for real. We're always looking for volunteers. Any ZBA stuff?
Not since I last reported.
Cool. We just got our building planning zoning monthly report, like right before, I started setting up. So I didn't get a chance to kind of like look through and give some good updates, on it, but just really appreciate Mike getting it together, in time for tonight's meeting. So it can be something to be mulled over, between now and next time. Anything else? All right, motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night.